Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're taking a bit of a different look at dog training. We're not focusing on the dogs themselves, but actually on us, the humans.
Right. It's about the mistakes we tend to make. Our sources for this, they're pretty solid official statements from places like the AVSEB, the APDT, plus some really detailed training guides.
Yeah, and what jumps out from all this material is, well, it's kind of ironic, isn't it?
It really is. The dog is usually perfectly capable of learning. It's often our own mistakes, our communication breakdown that creates the roadblocks.
Exactly. We want that amazing companion, but then our own, impatience or inconsistency gets in the way. It actually undermines the whole process.
Totally sabotages it.
So that's our mission today. We've pulled together, I think it's 21 of those common human errors. Everything from messing up early socialization to falling for that whole dominance myth thing. Basically, if you want a shortcut to a better behaved dog and a stronger relationship, this is it. We're going to pinpoint where owners typically trip up and, crucially, how to fix it.
Because it really boils down to clear communication, positive, consistent communication, and structure.
And that clarity, it has to start right from the get-go, sometimes even before you bring the dog home.
Absolutely. It starts with timing, not just reward timing, but timing those really critical early life experiences.
Okay, so let's dig into that first group of mistakes. And maybe the biggest one, the one with the longest shadow, is waiting too long to socialize a puppy.
Yeah, and this isn't just like friendly advice. This is based on how their brains develop. The sources are really clear on this. There's this primary socialization period. It kicks in around 3 weeks old.
3 weeks, wow.
Yeah, tiny. And it starts fading fast by 12 weeks. But the absolute peak, the most sensitive time, that's like 6 to 8 weeks old.
So that's the prime window for them to learn what's normal and safe in the world.
Exactly. Their brains are just soaking it all up then, deciding this is okay or this is scary.
And the consequences, if you miss that window, they sound pretty severe.
They can be, yeah. Lack of that early positive exposure can lead straight to, deep-seated fears, being overly timid, or even aggression later on.
I read one source that said behavior problems from poor socialization are the #1 killer of dogs under 3. That's staggering.
It is, and it really highlights how critical this is. You're not just getting a difficult dog if you miss it. You're often getting a dog who's genuinely anxious and sees the world as a threat.
But what about older dogs? Say you adopt a dog from a shelter who clearly missed that window. Is it just too late?
No, definitely not a lost cause. But you have to be realistic.
Oh,
You can always start confidence-building work. Always. But it's much harder. You're essentially trying to rewire a brain that's already decided things are scary.
Takes more time, more patience, maybe professional help.
Absolutely. Way more than if you'd gotten that exposure in during that 3 to 12-week period.
Okay, so that's the big life timing piece. What about the day-to-day timing, the routine, or maybe the lack of one? A big mistake seems to be just relying on like a weekly obedience class.
Oh, yeah. That's a classic setup for disappointment. Dogs just don't learn effectively that way. They need repetition. They need consistency. Our sources hammer this home. Those are the two most vital ingredients for training success.
So once a week isn't enough.
Not even close, really. Class is great for guidance, for learning the how-to, but the real learning happens with daily practice. At home, by you.
And what does daily mean? Does it have to be like an hour-long session?
No, definitely not. Actually, shorter is better. Think 5-minute sessions, maybe scattered through the day 3 or 4 times.
Okay.
Those little focus bursts, they're way more effective for learning and keeping the dog engaged than one long, potentially boring 30-minute drill once a week.
Right. Keep it short, keep it fun.
Exactly. Work it into your day. Don't make it this huge, separate chore.
And then there's the consistency piece, or the lack of it. How does inconsistency mess things up?
Oh, inconsistency is like kryptonite for dog training. It just muddies the water completely. Well, imagine one person lets the dog jump up on them when they get home because they're happy to see them, but then another person yells at the dog for jumping.
Right. Or maybe you let them on the couch sometimes, but not other times.
Precisely. The dog has no idea what the actual rule is. They learn the rules are random or depend on who's around or what mood you're in.
That sounds confusing for the dog.
It's incredibly confusing.
Frustrating.
Frustrating for them. They can't figure out how to please you reliably.
I bet this is a huge issue in families, right? With kids or multiple adults having different standards.
It's a massive challenge. Every single person interacting with the dog needs to be on the same page. 100% consistency on the core rules.
Otherwise, the dog just learns, maybe I'll listen this time, maybe not.
You got it. Responding becomes optional. And that ties right into the next common mistake: getting ahead of yourself, being impatient.
Ah, yes. Expecting too much too soon.
We do it all the time. We'd never expect a kid to learn calculus overnight, but we get frustrated when the puppy has an accident after only 2 days.
Yeah, that analogy about learning to ride a bike really stuck with me from the sources. It takes time, practice, bumps along the way.
Exactly. Training takes consistent effort over time, especially for foundational stuff like house rules or basic commands. Expecting perfection right away just leads to your frustration.
And that frustration poisons the well, doesn't it?
Completely. The dog picks up on it. So the key is start setting those rules and boundaries gently from day one, even with an older dog you just brought home, and then build on them slowly, patiently. #tagged, #2. The mechanics of positive reinforcement.
Okay, let's shift gears into the actual how of training, specifically positive reinforcement. This is where the science gets, well, pretty precise, and timing seems to be absolutely critical.
It's everything, and it's where a lot of people unintentionally go wrong. The mistake is getting the timing of the reward or praise just slightly off.
How slightly?
Even a couple of seconds late. If the dog sits and then you fumble for the treat, and by the time you give it, they've already looked away or started to stand up.
Ah, so they might think the reward was for looking away, not for sitting.
Exactly. You have to mark and reward the instant the correct behavior happens, or immediately after it, while it's happening, ideally.
But like you said, dogs are fast. How do you possibly capture that split-second perfect sit before they do something else? It takes time to get a treat out.
Right, and that's precisely why we use a marker. This is such a key concept.
Like a clicker.
A clicker is a common one, yeah. Or it can be a specific, short, consistent word like yes or good. Something distinct.
And that marker does what exactly?
It acts like a bridge in time. The instant the dog does the right thing, you click or say yes. That sound tells the dog that specific action you just did, that's what earned you the reward that's coming.
I see. So the marker pinpoints the exact moment, even if the treat delivery is a second or two later.
Precisely. It ensures absolute clarity for the dog about what behavior is paying off.
That's a really crucial detail. Okay, and speaking of treats, let's talk about bribing versus rewarding. They sound similar, but they're not, are they?
Not at all. Fundamentally different. Bribing is when you show the treat first to get the dog to do something. You wave it in front of their nose to lure them into a sit.
Okay, and rewarding is?
Rewarding is delivering the treat after the dog has already performed the behavior, and ideally after you've marked it.
So bribing is like showing the cash up front to get the job done. Rewarding is the paycheck after the work is completed.
That's a perfect analogy. And the problem with bribing is that the dog learns they only have to work if they see the bribe first. The behavior becomes dependent on seeing the food.
Right, so you end up with a dog who only listens when you're holding a cookie. How do we avoid that trap? How do we fade the treats eventually?
That's where intermittent reinforcement comes in. This is the secret sauce for making behaviors reliable even without constant treats.
Okay, how's that work?
Once the dog understands the behavior and performs it reliably, let's say, they sit correctly 8 or 9 times out of 10. When you ask in a quiet place, you start rewarding randomly.
The slot machine effect.
It's exactly like a slot machine. Or getting paid. You don't get paid every single second you work, right? But the possibility of the paycheck keeps you going.
Right.
Same for the dog. They know a reward might come, so they keep offering the behavior. It keeps them engaged and makes the behavior much stronger and more resistant to distractions. If you never fade the lure or the constant treats, you haven't really finished the training process.
Got it. Okay, another common issue, the nagging owner. The person who says, sit, sit, Fido, S-I-T, S-I-T.
Yes. Repeating the cue over and over. It's a really common mistake.
What does that actually teach the dog?
It teaches the dog that the first cue is meaningless. It teaches them that sit actually means sit, 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 S-I-T. They learn to wait for the volume or the frustration before responding. It just poisons the cue.
So what's the fix? It must be frustrating if the dog isn't listening.
The fix is simple in principle, though it takes discipline. Say the cue once, clearly.
And if they don't do it?
Don't repeat the word. Pause. Maybe take a small step back to reset. Then, use a lure like a treat near their nose to guide them into the position. Then, mark and reward.
So you help them succeed without nagging.
Exactly. You avoid reinforcing the ignoring the first cue behavior, and also make sure your cues are distinct.
Like don't use words that sound too similar.
Right. Using down and off if they sound alike, or wait and stay without clear differentiation, especially from a distance or with background noise, that just confuses the dog. Clarity is key. One word, one clear meaning said once. Hashtag TAC-TAC-HOORA3. Avoiding aversives and the dominance myth.
Okay, this next section feels really important, maybe even a bit controversial for some listeners.
Yeah.
We need to talk about harsh discipline and this dominance myth.
Yeah, and the science and the major professional organizations are really, really clear on this now. Methods based on trying to dominate your dog, using force or intimidation, they're just counterproductive and potentially harmful.
Who says this? Just general consensus or
Yeah. No, it's official positions. Groups like the American Veterinary Society of Animal Behavior, AVSAB, the Association of Professional Dog Trainers, APDT, they've issued statements. They point out that these techniques actually increase fear, anxiety, and aggression. They inhibit learning, and they carry a real risk of physical injury, both to the dog and the person using them.
And let's just tackle the core myth head on. This idea that your dog is constantly scheming to become the alpha of the house.
Right. That whole concept is based on flawed interpretations of wolf behavior studies from decades ago, like studies on unrelated wolves forced together in captivity, which is nothing like a natural pack or a human family.
So dominance isn't really a personality trait in dogs.
Not in the way people mean it, no. And dog aggression, it's almost never about trying to climb some imaginary social ladder over humans. It's overwhelmingly driven by fear, anxiety, guarding resources, pain, or just plain confusion about what's expected.
But you still hear about people using techniques like alpha rolls or scruff shakes. What are those and why are they so bad?
Okay, so an alpha roll is physically forcing a dog onto its back and holding it down. It's an incredibly vulnerable position that dogs naturally offer only as a sign of appeasement when terrified, forcing them into it. That's pure intimidation.
In a scruff shake.
That's grabbing the loose skin on their neck and shaking them, mimicking how a mother might correct a very young pup, but applied incorrectly and often harshly by humans.
And these don't teach respect.
No, they teach fear. Full stop. You're literally triggering the dog's fight or flight response. A terrified animal can't learn anything except that you are unpredictable and dangerous. You're not being a leader, you're being a bully.
That makes total sense. You can't build trust through fear.
Never. Which leads to another, maybe more subtle mistake that erodes trust. Cue poisoning.
Cue poisoning, what's that?
It's when you accidentally associate a command or even the dog's name with something unpleasant. Maybe you only ever use your happy come command when it's time to leave the dog park, or you call them over cheerfully right before you trim their nails, which they hate.
Ah, so the dog learns that come predicts something bad is about to happen.
Exactly. The cue becomes poisoned. It predicts punishment or the end of fun. So understandably, the dog starts hesitating or ignoring the cue altogether.
So the takeaway is keep your main cues, and especially your dog's name, associated only with good things.
Absolutely. Their name should mean, hey, pay attention, something good might happen, not, uh-oh, I'm in trouble. Use their name for praise, for calling them for meals or walks, for fun training games like the name game where they get a treat just for looking at you when you say it.
And never yell their name in anger.
Never. That just pollutes that vital line of positive communication. Hashtag #TagCheckIPlayer5Fu. Advanced mistakes in training and management.
All right, let's talk about mistakes that often crop up after you think you've taught the basics. This is probably where owners get really frustrated, right? They say, my dog knows sit, he's just being stubborn.
Yes, and 9 times out of 10, it's not stubbornness. It's usually a failure on our part to proof the behavior.
Proofing, what does that mean?
It means teaching the dog that the command applies everywhere, not just in the specific context where they first learned it. Dogs are terrible at generalizing.
So, a sit learned in the quiet kitchen doesn't automatically translate to a sit at the busy park.
Not at all. To the dog, those can feel like completely different situations. The sights, the sounds, the smells, your distance from them, it all changes the picture. The failure to perform isn't defiance. It's often genuine confusion or overwhelm because the skill hasn't been practiced and reinforced in that new environment.
Okay, so how do we proof a behavior properly? It sounds systematic.
It is. You need to gradually introduce what trainers call the 3Ds. Distance, duration, and distraction.
Distance, duration, distraction. Okay.
So first, you practice in a super easy place, like your living room. Then you gradually increase the distance between you and the dog while they hold the command. Then you work on increasing the duration they hold it.
Like holding a sit for longer and longer.
Exactly. Start with 3 seconds, reward. 5 seconds, reward. Maybe back to 4. Then 10. You build it up slowly. ensuring success.
And the last D is distraction.
Right. Only once the dog is solid on distance and duration in a quiet place do you start adding mild distractions. Maybe another person walks quietly through the room. Then you gradually increase the level of distraction, eventually moving outside to the yard, then the sidewalk, then maybe the park perimeter.
So it's a very step-by-step process.
Very methodical. If the dog fails, it just means you increased one of the Ds too quickly. You just take a step back to where they were successful and build up again more slowly. That's how you get reliable commands anywhere.
Got it. Another issue the sources mention, which seems related to owner frustration, is just being too emotional during training. Yelling, getting angry.
Yeah, this is a huge one. Dogs are incredibly sensitive to our emotional state. They read our body language, our tone of voice like a book.
So if we're frustrated or angry,
They pick up on that tension immediately. Often, they shut down. They might offer appeasement signals, look away, sniff the ground, things we might misinterpret as blowing us off or being stubborn.
but really they're just stressed and can't learn in that state.
Exactly. Learning requires a relaxed, focused state. Anger and frustration create the opposite. The communication channel just breaks down.
Okay, but let's be real. Training can be frustrating sometimes.
Hmm.
How do you manage your own emotions if you're having a tough session or just a bad day?
Self-awareness is key. Recognize the signs in yourself. Tense shoulders, clenched jaw, raising your voice. The moment you feel that frustration rising, the best thing you can do is stop.
Just stop the training.
Yep. Take a break, even just 5 minutes. Go do something else entirely, something fun and non-demanding with your dog, like fetch or a quick sniff walk. Reset yourself. Then you can come back later with a calmer mindset. Remember, maintaining your composure isn't just nice, it's essential for effective teaching.
Calmness keeps the communication line open.
Precisely. Okay, last big area, potty training mistakes. This trips up so many new owners.
Understandable.
For sure, but most errors boil down to 2 main things: poor management and reacting badly to accidents.
Okay, let's break down poor management. What does that look like?
It usually means giving a new puppy or dog way too much unsupervised freedom in the house right away. They haven't learned the rules yet, they don't know where the designated toilet area is.
So they just go wherever the urge strikes.
Pretty much, the management fix is all about preventing accidents in the first place.
Now, crating.
Crating is one excellent tool, yes. Or keeping the puppy tethered to you with a leash, even indoors. Or using baby gates to confine them to a small, easy-to-clean area where you can watch them closely. Constant supervision in the early stages is crucial.
So you can spot the pre-potty signals and rush them outside.
Exactly. You set them up for success. The other huge error is how people react after an accident happens, specifically punishing the dog.
Like rubbing their nose in it. Or yelling at them. I know that's old school advice some people still hear.
Right, and it's incredibly counterproductive. Think about what that teaches the dog.
Not go outside, probably.
Definitely not. It teaches them eliminating when my human is around is dangerous and scary.
Ah. So they learn to sneak off and potty in hidden places to avoid the punishment?
You got it. Behind the sofa, under the bed, in another room. It creates fear and anxiety around a natural bodily function and makes house training much harder.
So what should you do if you find an accident? Or even if you catch them in the act?
If you catch them mid-act, make a sudden noise, a clap, or a firm "ah," just enough to startle and interrupt them. Then immediately rush them outside to the designated spot. If they finish there, throw a party. Lots of praise and treats.
And if you just find a puddle later?
If you find it after the fact, say nothing to the dog. They won't connect your anger to something they did minutes or hours ago. Just clean it up thoroughly with an enzymatic cleaner to remove the odor completely so they aren't drawn back to the same spot. And then double down on your management and supervision to prevent the next one. Focus all your energy on rewarding the successes outside. Be proactive, manage the environment, and reward heavily for getting it right. #outro.
Wow, okay. That was a lot, but so incredibly useful. We've covered 21 common human mistakes that can really derail dog training. I think the big takeaways for everyone listening are really about consistency, patience, and clear communication, right?
Absolutely. Short, frequent, positive sessions, everyone in the house on the same page with the rules, using that marker signal for instant feedback.
And ditching those outdated, harmful ideas about needing to be the alpha.
Please, yes, ditch them entirely. When you approach training from that positive, clear communication standpoint, it stops feeling like a battle and starts feeling like what it should be, building an amazing relationship with your dog based on trust.
Okay, so as we wrap up, we wanted to leave you with something to chew on, a point of tension that came up in the source material regarding fear.
Right. We established that the major organizations like the APDT stress that fear and aggression are often rooted in anxiety, and that punishing a fearful dog is counterproductive. You need to build trust. However, one of the behavioral guides we looked at specifically advised against actively reassuring a fearful dog, like petting or coddling them, because you might inadvertently reward the fearful behavior itself.
Ah, I see the conflict. So if fear is an emotion driven by anxiety, not really a conscious behavior,
Yeah.
how do you handle that?
Exactly. That's the puzzle for you, the listener, to consider. If we accept fear as an underlying emotional state, how do we act as a calm, supportive leader? How do we help the dog without reinforcing the outward signs of fear, but also without making them feel abandoned or pushing them towards shutting down or escalating?
It's that tricky balance between acknowledging their feelings and managing the behavior without making things worse.
It really is. It's a delicate dance, and finding that balance is probably at the heart of really advanced, empathetic dog ownership. Something to think about.
Definitely something to think about. Keep training, keep learning, keep being patient with your dog and yourself. Thanks for joining us for the deep dive.